So today we have producer, mixer, and engineer the Tane with us for an exclusive interview. Thank you for doing this, man.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, man.
Okay, first of all, tell me a bit about yourself. Who is the Tane, and what does this moniker stand for? Where did it come from?
Oh man. Well, let me start by saying the only reason "the" is in there is because somebody else on Instagram already had Tame, and which is crazy because I was trying to get that handle like I don't even know how many years ago, like at least 12, 13 years ago, early days of
Wow.
Instagram. So yeah, so somebody just beat me to it. Um But Tane, how do I explain Tane? It's not the greatest story in the world, but basically I was just sitting in art class one day. I was drawing graffiti. I used to draw a lot of graffiti, not very good, but it was just a thing I did. And I may or may not have had some substances in my system, and then this just came to me from the clouds, man. This word tame came to me, and I wrote it down, and I like kind of thought about it, and I was like, it's kind of like a cool sounding word. I've never heard anybody use it like as a name or anything, and I just started writing it, and then I started using it as like a gamer tag, and when I would rap, I would use it as my rap name, and it just stuck. Everybody started calling me Tane, and it's just sort of, man, I've been using that name for almost 20 years at this point. It's kind of crazy.
I mean, it works.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It definitely fits. So yeah,
Okay, so what first drew you to music production and engineering?
good question. I was interested in music from a young age. I was always I signed myself up for piano lessons when I was 5, uh, and from there I just had always enjoyed, especially like pop music, like early Maroon 5 was stuff that like jumped out of the radio for me and really caught my attention as a young kid. And so and I always just had a particular affinity for anything that sounded like extra good, like really glossy, well produced stuff like Pink Floyd.
Mm.
Their stuff was really glossy and just kind of really textural at the time. Um, yeah, that kind of stuff always just stood out to me. So I don't know if I would really be able to say anything other than just like it's a natural thing for me. I really got interested in that stuff at a young age, and as I grew making music, I would, just start recording my ideas. And then I always wanted to just make them sound as good as they could sound. And so I would, spend hours on the internet reading just articles. How do you make your stuff sound better? How do you, all of that stuff, and developing friendships online of people giving me advice and sending them my mixes. And they'd be like, yeah, this sounds terrible, but if you do this, it might sound a little bit better. And eventually, my stuff started sounding kind of passable, and then I was able to, make a career out of it. But yeah, it's a long journey. It's a very, very long journey. But I've always been interested in sound in that way.
How would you say this journey, this passion of yours has evolved over the years? Because you said you've been doing it for
Mm.
like at least 20 years?
Yeah, I've been interested in audio since like I think I first booted up GarageBand when I was in fifth grade. Um, So, sheesh, I don't even know how many years that's been, but yeah, it's been a very long time, and I think at least for me, the only thing that I really pay attention to in my journey is the the way that I've grown in terms of my ability and my understanding of sound. And it's hard, like the when you're starting out for a long time, what you're doing is you're actually just trying to get your ears to properly hear what's coming out of the speakers. And that alone is a very long training process. Like I'm talking years. Like it took me years and years and years to objectively be able to hear what's coming out of the speakers and then interpret that in a way that it's like, okay, it's feeling lumpy in this, region of the spectrum, so I can EQ this out, and it's not feeling bright enough here, I can brighten that up. being able to do that, first you have to be able to hear objectively. And so training your ears, that's how I started. And so that's the main thing I would say that has evolved for me is, you know,
Mm.
a kind of an objective understanding and being able to hear properly.
Okay, so you mentioned Maroon 5 and Pink Floyd. Is there
Mm.
any other specific artist or genre that has a big impact on your sound?
Oh my God, so many. I could talk about that for days. Funnily enough, the biggest one is drum and bass. I'm like a huge drum and bass head.
Hmm.
Um, and do you know what drum and bass is? Are you familiar with that genre?
I wouldn't say that, but okay.
Okay, so like have
Educate
you
me.
heard, do you know the group Pendulum? Have you heard Pendulum?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it's drum and bass is like a really specific genre. It's not super well known, but like if you heard it, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, I've heard this before." But it's basically a really fast genre. It's everything is like 175 beats per minute.
Mm,
Um, and there's like a lot of deep subgenres. It's a really deep genre, but the idea is it's just like really fast, aggressive drums, powerful bass, and just really glossy, like super
mm.
just punchy drums and it just really textural stuff. Oh, it's the best genre in the world. But that's like I actually started producing when I was taking production seriously, was doing drum and bass. Um, so I started there, but man, who has influenced me? Like that list is so huge. Like early Beatles was stuff that I was listening to the most. Early Moby, like Moby's first album really had a huge
Mm,
impact on me. Early Maroon 5. Trying to think. There's a group called Cannibal Ox. They're a rap group from the Bronx that they had like one really big album that was in one of the Tony Hawk games. Like one of their songs was in the
mm.
Tony Hawk game, and from that I listened to the whole
Yeah.
album, and it really affected me. Um, a lot of Nas, a lot of Mobb Deep. In terms of rap. Uh, yeah, that list like could go so deep, dude. Like because I studied music in college. I was a guitar major for a couple of years, and then I eventually burned out and dropped it. But I was obsessed with like virtuoso players. Like Rush is my favorite band of all time, so
Mm.
I'm really into progressive rock and stuff. Listened to a lot of Liquid Tension Experiment and Steve Vai and Joe Satriani. All just huge gamut of yeah, a lot of random stuff. So that's a very deep topic. I could, just
I can
ramble off
understand
about
that
that no
you could
one no
go on
one
for
would care
days.
about. No one
You
would
could go
care
on for
about it.
days.
Yeah. No one would care.
Okay, so besides music, do you also take inspiration from other media? Like, I know Gerald often has a film playing in the background while you work in the studio.
Yeah, so I ended up graduating in film. That my dad is a film professor and huge film enthusiast, and so he raised me watching amazing movies since I was a little kid, and so film is a deep passion of mine. And I draw a lot of inspiration for music from film, mostly just the ambient feelings of movies.
Mm,
It's sort of an abstract thing, but just like the way that a movie can feel, it's like, okay, how do I capture that in music?
mm,
I can also be like really inspired by the score of
yeah,
of stuff, but like I don't really pay attention to that quite as much because it's not as applicable to stuff like hip hop.
yeah. But I mean, Hans Zimmer is a prime example of peak music score for movies.
Oh yeah, he's a legend. I mean, I really love John Williams stuff. John Williams is
Yeah.
sick, and people will, you know, hate on him because he's stealing a lot from my guy who I can't remember his name, the dude who Gustav Holst, who did the planets. The planets, like if you haven't listened to the planets, amazing. You got to listen to it. It's so sick.
Noted,
Um,
noted.
yeah, seriously, like it's this suite that's yeah, you'll hear it and then you'll be like, oh, this totally sounds like John Williams. And it's like, yeah, John Williams stole all of his ideas from him. But still, John Williams is amazing. Anyway, different topic for another day.
Okay, but since you touched it, I'm a okay, I wouldn't say I'm a huge David Lynch fan, but I like
Mm,
the basic things. Like Twin Peaks is one of my favorite shows of all time.
cool.
So Angelo Badalamenti's music is like very
Mm,
Lynchian. Like
mm,
there's no other
interesting.
word to describe it.
Yeah, I haven't delved too deeply into David Lynch, honestly. I really enjoy Mulholland Drive. That had a huge
Mm,
impact on me.
mm.
Eraserhead is one of the strangest viewing experiences you could ever have.
That's an understatement.
Um, yeah, it's a very bizarre film, but really cool. Yeah, I don't think I've seen too many. Oh, and Blue Velvet. Blue Velvet is super
Mm.
sick, but I've actually never watched Twin Peaks. I know I need to see it, but never gotten around to it.
It's a trip. It's a trip.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's David Lynch, so yeah, I believe it.
Okay, so let's talk a bit about your creative and technical process. Like,
Sure.
can you walk me through your typical workflow, like from the initial idea for a song, for a track, for a record, to the final mix?
Okay, from initial idea to finished product. Not to be not to sound like it's a cop out, but it really is so different for every song. But if I were to break it down into steps, it's kind of like initial genesis, right?
Mm.
The when you first come up with the idea, whether it's a beat, whether it's a lyric, whether it's a drum pattern, whatever, and then you kind of get that on paper or into the program as fast as possible. Um, yeah, I guess like to break it down with G specifically, like usually I'll use Midnight in Paris as an example.
Oh my
Yeah, oh, it's a great song, dude. It's freaking
God.
awesome.
R.I.P.
So,
Midnight in Paris.
yeah, it was my favorite song ever, dude. So he FaceTimes me at like 8 in the morning, which for musician hours is like super early. I wake up, I'm literally in my underwear, and he's like, "Dude, I need you to flip this sample right now." And so I like in my underwear go to my studio and I chop up the sample as I do the drums. And he's like, "Oh yeah, okay, tweak this, move this over here, and then let's do this." Like, okay, great. Get the whole beat kind of going. He starts doing some mumble takes, blah 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 blah, and I send him the file. This is while he literally was in Paris, and he rewrites the hook, changes some things, and then he meets up with Mark Basie to and they go to the studio and they record a pass of it, and it's a basic level thing of just kind of they have the hook, don't really know what the verses are yet. There's some mumbles in there of just kind of figuring out where things are. Um, and then I get to London and we get in the studio and then we flesh it all out, figure out, okay, these are the bars that we need. These are, this is what the hook's going to be, blah, blah, blah. And then from there, once you have kind of like all the pieces of the song together, what you do from there is then you start tightening the screws based on
Mm.
what your audience is. So for us, we're trying to hit a mainstream audience. So, we want we don't want any part to be boring. We don't want to take too long getting anywhere. So originally, when we did the song, it had this super long outro. It was almost as long as the rest of the song. It was like 2 minutes or something like that. It was really long.
Mm.
And we eventually, after like many sessions of working on it, we actually cut the entire outro, redid an entire version of it that was significantly shorter, but overall helped to make it a digestible song and not some weird kind of ambient art piece. So, so we then will take it to there where it's like, okay, do we need to add a little production element here? Do we need to cut this verse? Do we need to cut this hook and move it here or whatever? And then after that's all done, then it goes to the mixing process where you sit there and it's just me and I, listen to the song 1,000 times and you figure out which piece doesn't work, which piece does work. Um, Bring out the good, take out the bad as much as you can, but overall you want the song to be a feeling and to just like make it move your spirit. And then after that, you send it to mastering, and I don't do that. So I'm not a mastering engineer. I know how to like on a basic level, but those guys are wizards. I don't know. They're using witchcraft.
Okay, earlier you mentioned that you used to rap. So do you still write lyrics?
No, I don't. I'm a terrible lyricist, man. I inspired a lot of rappers back in the day, but no, I started out rapping though. Like, I used to just smoke weed with my friends and sit around in a circle and you just freestyle off the top of your head. Like that was something I was really interested in was, I
Yeah.
used to watch those videos by like Idea and Atmosphere, Slug and like Brother Ali, where they would just rap off the top of their head and just make up bars. And I was like, I want to learn how to do that. So I would just, with my friends, we'd play instrumentals and just rap. And I got pretty good at it. I was never amazing. And there's like one or two recorded Tane verses that are floating around, but like ain't no one gonna hear those, bro. Like
I
they're
say release the Tane cut.
yeah. they're it's not a bad verse, like the one that I'm thinking of in particular. It's not bad. It's just like other rappers put me to shame. Like people who really rap like this. I don't hold a candle to it, you know what I mean? So, but what that did do is it did help me work with rappers because I understand how to craft a 16 bar verse. I understand word placement, syllables, all that kind of stuff. So I'm glad I did. It was definitely useful. Um, but no, I do not rap anymore.
So what do you think comes first, the beat or the lyrics in general, not just in hip hop?
Generally, I would say generally the beat, but good hooks, I think that one is 50-50. Like a good
Mm,
hook, you could just be walking around and suddenly like and suddenly you've got a
yeah,
hook that doesn't have a beat yet. And then you'll record that and then you'll hear the beat and it's like, "Oh, that's the beat for this hook that I wrote."
yeah. Or you just work the hook, the lyrics into the beat in some way.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, so how do you decide what mood or emotion to capture in a new track? Whether it's something bouncy, happy, or reflective, or sad, even?
Good question. I honestly I don't usually set out with like a particular goal of that unless I'm like working on a project and it's like okay we need an up tempo beat or I'm doing stuff for an artist where it's like okay I want stuff for their lane and if I'm trying to accomplish a certain mood then I'll just listen to a bunch of music in that vein to get my kind of my spirit and emotions in that realm and then I'll emulate
Mm,
that if that makes sense but
mm.
generally like my default is I don't know if you heard my melodrama project, but that's like the Tane
I've heard
default.
some songs, yeah.
Yeah, it's just very smooth, mellow, kind of
Mm,
jazzy stuff. Like that's my default, and I just could do it with my eyes closed and just if I'm not trying to do anything else, I just end up making that or just ambient
yeah.
kind of vibey stuff.
Would you say you're a perfectionist?
Oh yeah, dude. Too
I mean,
much.
every
Yeah, way too
musician
much,
is,
man.
right?
Yeah, to a degree, but like as a producer and an engineer especially, like you gotta be real detail oriented.
So how do you decide when the mix is truly finished versus when you're
Mm,
like, okay, I have to stop because I'm over editing now, and it might ruin the whole thing.
I actually had a whole conversation about this just 2 days ago. It's funny you bring that up. So it's a hard thing with art. Like art's tough to really art is it's a weird thing, man. Like sometimes you can tweak something for a long time and it ends up getting better. Most of the time that's not true, but sometimes it is. Um, but for me personally, the way that I navigate that, I'll preface by saying you can tweak something to death. It's easy to just
Yeah.
forever make edits on something. You could do that till the end of time. And a quote that I heard that I really love, I don't know what the exact quote is, but basically it's art is never finished, it's only abandoned.
Ooh,
And
that's deep. That's deep.
yeah, and there's a lot of truth to that, man, where it's just like, well, yeah, like I could keep perfecting it and twisting screws
Mm,
and stuff, but like at a certain point, you just have to stop because it's not going to come out otherwise. And
yeah.
what I try and do when I'm working on anything is I always try and maintain the original spirit of whatever the thing was, like when it was at its best point, where I was feeling the best about a song. And you have to be very intuitively aware of when you start approaching the line of like, okay, I'm tweaking this too much to the point it's going to break what's here. Because like again, like the twisting screws metaphor is one I think about a lot, because like it's like twisting screws but into glass. And
Mm,
so if you tighten the screws too tight, that glass is going to shatter.
yeah.
And so it's like it's a this scary, really delicate balance of like, how do you tighten it enough so that it's strong and still is what it's supposed to be without exploding, you know?
Mm.
And I had to do that with a lot of records, especially Midnight in Paris. Me and G sat for hours and hours and hours in studio sessions working on that record. And then I had to intentionally be like, okay, like let's take a step back. Let's wait on this before we over tweak this and destroy it. Um, and it's important to do that.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about your collaborators for a
Mhm.
second. How do you adapt your communication style depending on who you're working with? Because you work with
Mm.
very different people in the studio.
It's a good question. I like that. How do I adapt that? Honestly, it's not really a conscious thing. I don't really think about it all that much. I guess I mean, sometimes I do, like when, a problem arises and I have to like figure out how to navigate it or whatever. But generally, I, yeah, I kind of just try and interact with the person as I know them, if that
Mm,
makes sense. So like, I work with rappers who are like deep in the hood of East New York, who are just like, they're into some crazy stuff and, might be carrying weapons and things like that. But they're friends with me and like we're all tight like that. But
yeah,
but you just, for me, it's not really about your background or any of that stuff. It's just like I get to know who you are as a person and as an
mm,
artist and like the things that you like, and I just address that, if that makes sense. I don't know if
yeah,
that answers your question,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I mostly just try and interact with the person who's in front of me.
Hmm. Okay, so what steps do you take to understand each artist's vision, especially if it differs from your own? Because
Mm,
I think things can get tricky there.
very much. Yeah. There's a lot, and I it's something I've worked on for years, but with with G, he has a much longer career than I have. He's been, at a higher level
Mm,
of music than I have for a long time, and so like I have all of my opinions and all of my art studies and all my goofy things that my philosophies and whatever. So then you meet someone like G, who has been doing this for a long time. He has his own set of values and art and all of that stuff, but also he has a massive career that he is responsible for.
mm,
And so, uh, one thing that I had to do was really learn, and this is something I had learned before, but like I really had to put it into practice with G, was just set aside your ego and what you think is best. And like you can voice those things for sure, but ultimately he's the artist and it's his career. His name is on the marquee at the theater
yeah,
that people are going to go see. They're seeing G Easy. They're not seeing a Tane show.
mm,
So he's the one that gets to make those calls. And like I'll offer thoughts. I'll offer, you know, um, hey, like why don't we try it like this? Or have you considered, maybe not singing this part, maybe rapping it, or vice
mm,
versa, or rapping with a little more energy or less energy or whatever. But ultimately, it's like he's a grown adult and I'm a grown adult. Like you have to just respect. It's just like I can't force him to do anything. Like he gets to choose his own artistic path. And what I try and do, especially as an engineer, that's like in my opinion what makes a good engineer is I try to be the best listener possible. I try to listen to what G is saying he wants to achieve, and then I try and really understand what that means, both kind of on an emotional level and on a technical level of
mm,
like, okay, how do I get, he wants this type of sound. What does that mean? Does it mean have a lot of reverb? Does it mean have no reverb? Does it mean, this whatever
yeah,
translation into the field it is. But I think being a good listener and truly trying to understand the artist's vision, my job is not to impart my vision upon
Yeah.
the song. That's not what I'm supposed to do. My job is to help him impart his
Mm,
vision into it. And so that's what I'm always trying to do with
yeah.
any artist. I'm always trying to understand what their vision is. And a lot of artists do not actually have that clear vision. They don't really know what they're trying to accomplish, and they're looking to me to try and guide them to a place of,
Mm.
uh, somewhere that they can be happy with. But with G, he generally knows what he wants. And so my job is to stay out of the way and like, all right, this is what you're looking for. I'm going to help you achieve that at the very highest level.
Do you have a favorite artist with whom you have collaborated, and why is it G Easy? Okay, I'm just playing.
I mean, it's hard to say anyone other than G for real. We have spent a long, long time together. Like I've only worked with him for like 2.5 years, but it's been like a lot of hours of just one-on-one us in the studio together. And he's somebody who really understands music in a deep way, understands how songs work, the nuances of music and all of that stuff. And it's rare that you get to work with people who have that depth of knowledge with music. And so it's just, man, every time I work with him, it's just a great time. So he's definitely one of my favorites. Joey Baggs is another one. Joey is a fantastic collaborator. We make some really cool music together. So, but there's a lot. Like I work with a lot of people, and the main people that I work with is just I work with them because we make great music
Mm,
together, not because of the financial aspect.
yeah.
It's much more important for me to just be doing stuff that is like fun. Like
Mm.
it's good music.
Is there an artist you have worked with that you think the world should hear? I was thinking you would say Joy Bags here.
Yeah, Joey Baggs is really, really that guy. But Black Boy is also super sick. Black Boy is a fire artist. And he does not have many listeners the way that he should, but
Mm.
man, he is disgusting. So he's more in like kind of the trap
Wow.
Atlanta wave of things, but Black Boy is so sick. So yeah,
Mm.
Joey Baggs and Black Boy. Zell Monstrous is also really sick, but there's a lot, dude. I could go
Mm.
on. All the people I work with are fire.
Has there ever been a time when you had to give difficult feedback to an artist? Like you said, man, this I don't think this will work. Maybe we should try it another way.
Yeah, no, I have to do that a lot. Yeah, and artists are sensitive. You got to be gentle. Like I'm an artist too, so like I know how it is. Hearing feedback of just like, oh, this thing that you really like and care about isn't working the way that you think it is. Like it sucks to hear that. And so you try and be gentle and be like, all right, listen, I'm gonna be straight with you because I respect you and you need to hear the truth. But listen, buddy, this ain't it.
Yeah.
Let's move a different direction. And usually artists will be receptive to that, or at least they'll be appreciative of the
Mm.
honesty. So I think it's always better to, you never want to be a yes man
Yeah.
like that because like, and there's nice ways to say things. And dude, I hate this is the worst thing that I like. You can't be doing that, but like be like, you can say things like, this one doesn't really move me emotionally.
Mm.
This one doesn't make me feel anything.
You
And
gotta play with words a bit.
got to sugarcoat it just a touch, but,
Yeah.
make the medicine go down a little easier.
What's the toughest critique you have received for your work as an artist?
Oh, that's a great question. Jeez. Um, yeah, I don't know, dude. I don't know if I've ever nothing stands out as being like, oh yeah, when that person said that, like that broke me.
Mm.
Like, cause it's not that, but like there have been plenty, plenty of times where I've played beats for artists and they're just like, yeah, I'm not feeling any of these. Like I've played 20 beats and they're just like, yeah, no, none of them. I'm like, man. And that is a terrible feeling. And what's worse is that it's not like an identifiable, like, oh, I don't like the drums that you used, or I don't like this or
Yeah.
that. It's just like, not just not good.
They
Like,
just
oh,
don't like the
jeez.
whole beat.
The whole thing is not it. So that sucks. And I've had that, every producer goes through that. You just get that.
So how do you overcome that? How do you grow from that?
Um, First you cry, you go, oh, no one likes my beats. But after that, you go, yeah, you have to make the choice of do I give up and decide, maybe this isn't for me, or do you go back to the gym and do you like
Hmm.
keep working at it and you keep cutting away at it? Because like, dude, the first beats that I made were such dog water garbage that like, bro, I like someone should have taken my laptop from me. Like, I had no business making beats, bro. Who did I think I was?
Everyone has to
And
start somewhere.
that's the important part is that you have to be okay with being bad when you start out. You just
Hmm.
have to do it. It sucks, and that's like 99% of people give up after they try one time because it
Hmm.
sucks and it doesn't get the feedback that they want. And they're like, "Oh, maybe this isn't for me." It's like, dude, everybody has that.
Hmm.
Like everyone makes bad art when they're starting out, and then they make bad art later too. Like I made terrible songs yesterday. Like you just do it, man. And it's like you're not always gonna hit the lottery. You're not always gonna be successful, but you like the only way you fail is if you give up and if you quit. So if you don't quit, like literally it's that. Like you have to just force yourself to not let your emotions win and just be like, no,
Hmm.
you know what? I'm gonna keep showing up and I'm gonna keep trying. And if you just keep doing that forever, you just get better. And
Hmm.
that is literally the only thing
Yeah.
I've done to be where I am right now. That's it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So, was there ever a project where you faced like limited resources or tight deadlines, and how do, how do you manage to keep the quality high under such circumstances?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I've done that a million times. My whole freaking career has been that, dude, except for with G. But the way you learn to combat that is two things. One is you have taste, you have good taste, and you develop your taste by seeing what's in the world, and you
Hmm.
learn, you figure out what you like and what you don't like, and what works and what doesn't. Then the other thing is you learn to do a bunch of stuff yourself. So I do a lot of photography. I do a
Hmm.
lot of graphic design. I know how to do a lot of stuff. And so that's just money I don't have to spend on those things with other people. And the way that you get good at that is, you suck and then you practice and you get better. And I've done all of my own album artwork pretty much like through my whole career, which is, not that impressive or extensive, but like still like I have a background in graphic design, I have a
Hmm.
background in photography as well. And so doing those things yourself saves you a lot of money. And then what you also can do when it comes to things where it's like, yeah, I just don't have the money or the resources or the expertise in these fields, is you can talk to like college students who are like learning and they're just hungry to get work to do something and you usually you'll have to sacrifice the quality a little bit,
Hmm.
but if you have good taste then you can oftentimes guide them into the right arena and then they'll be able to give you a good rate on
Hmm.
what it is you're trying to do, sometimes free. A lot of people starting out will do shit for free.
How do you handle potential distractions in the studio session? Like if there are too many people in there, or everybody's
Oh
on their
man.
goddamn phone on on their social
Yeah.
media and stuff.
um the social media one is That's never going to go away. That's a forever thing. That's just everybody these days. It's just on their phone. Um, as far as too many people in the room, I've cleared out rooms before. I've just said, all right, everybody out.
Yeah.
It's just me and the artist. We're just working. Y'all get out. People are too rowdy, too drunk, too whatever.
Mm.
Get out. Like we need to focus.
Yeah.
Um, but a lot of that is dictated by what mood the artist is in. Sometimes the artist just wants to party, and
Mm.
I'm not the one paying for the session. Like, if y'all want to pay me, so that y'all could just party, whatever, dude. That is on you. But you also got to remember, like, you got to take responsibility for that at the end of the
Mm.
day. Label's not going to be real happy if you wasted 4 days partying in the studio with a bunch of girls and alcohol and just being idiots. But no music got made, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Has there ever been a technical failure in a session? And
Oh yeah, dude, a million
how did you
times.
recover from that and keep being on track?
Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough. G has very little patience for technical issues like that. So like we've had times where where a computer doesn't work or we have some weird issue with a microphone or routing or whatever stupid thing, or we have a buzz coming through the microphone that you just can't get rid of. And it's kind of a twofold thing. One, you need enough technical expertise to kind of get through it and to just like, how do you problem solve this? How do you like, what things do you look at and address? The other thing is you have to have a positive attitude while you're going through it, because if you're getting really stressed out, the artist is going to get stressed out. If you're having a good time and being, positive about stuff and making jokes and stuff, it's a little bit lighter and easier for the artist. Um, and then if like you really can't figure it out, like there's certain things where, if there's a buzz in the microphone, if it's not that bad, you can still record and it's just like maybe it's not the best recording, but at least
Mm,
you can record.
mm,
If like you don't have monitors, like you have no music coming out of the monitors, that's a different thing. It's like you literally can't work
mm,
in that. And I've luckily never had anything that bad where it's like we had to cancel the session because we didn't have
mm,
sound. And even at the end of the day, like you probably could still run the session off of headphones. It would suck, but like you could just, everybody headphone up, we do a silent disco and we just,
mm,
do the session that way. I,
mm,
I I do that in my own studio sometimes when we're recording late and can't be loud.
mm,
Um, but yeah, I've never really had anything where it fully ruined the session. But usually, when something comes up like that, you keep a positive attitude, address the issue, you do some problem solving stuff, you make some jokes along the way so the artist is comfortable. And then when you fix it, you got to have double the positive energy when you come back. So it's like, all right, creativity's back on, and you got to be enthusiastic and you got to be, you know, because the engineer is in charge of setting the tone of a room and like
mm,
making the room feel good. Because if it's like if you're just some zooted out stoner that's just been sitting in the chair and you're high all day, you're not gonna have the energy to like lend to the room so that everybody can feel energized and want to
mm.
keep working.
Okay, how do you balance your artistic integrity with with commercial considerations, like budgets or what the label wants or what the people want, like what's trending
Mm.
in the streams?
Ultimately, G says this a lot. He says ultimately, like it's the music business. It is a business, and
Mm,
I am hired to do a job at the end of the day. And so, in my opinion, I think that art needs to, in order for it to exist, it needs to be shared with one other person, and ideally more than one.
mm,
And in order for it to see the light of day, you may have to do the, whatever considerations or you know, uh artistic compromises so that it can see the light of day, simply because that's just the nature of the thing. That just the label will not put it out if you don't shorten the song or whatever. And it's like, well, but my artist self wanted this outro to be 4 minutes long. And it's like, well, sorry, no one else cares about that. So you
mm,
need to shorten it. And you can have the version that is, the long version that you keep on your hard drive and you
yeah,
just hold it dear to your heart and whatever.
and
But at a
listening to it
certain
by yourself.
point, yeah, exactly. And I have plenty of those. I have a lot of songs that are like it never saw the light of day, but like I have it and I love it and it is what it is, or like a different version of a song or whatever.
Mm,
But at the end of the day, man, like you're hired to do a job and you have a responsibility to show up for that and to deliver things for that. And And so it sucks to sort of, be like, oh, I can't honor my artistic side. But what you can do is instead change your attitude and be like, well, you know what? I was able to do all of my artistic stuff on these
Mm.
other areas that weren't, this one thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Let's just try to visualize the future now.
Mm,
Where do you see your production style headed in 3 to 5 years from now?
interesting. I think that I want to start moving away from hip hop a little bit. I want to move more into like pop records, kind of
Mm.
in like the style of like Max Martin and those kinds of people. So um yeah, I think that like Charlie Puth is a really amazing songwriter and producer, and so like I would want to move that
Charlie
direction.
Puth is a musical genius. A musical
Yeah, it's
genius.
it's super annoying. Yeah, he's so sick. Um so yeah, I could see myself going more. I mean, obviously not on the same level as Charlie because it's like he's just an alien, but like doing stuff like that where we're like working more with singers and especially like female singers. Like that's something that I'm really good at is
Mm.
I work with female singers really well. So moving kind of more that direction is something I could see in the future, but
Mm.
I'm sticking with G as long as he wants to have me as an engineer.
I mean, you make a dynamic duo.
It's working for now, right?
You mentioned female artists. Is there any female artists in particular you would like to work with?
Mm. I mean, it's hard to say without just, name dropping the biggest artists. Like I want to work with Tate McRae. I think she's got a cool
Mm.
sound. I think that I've always wanted to work with Ellie Goulding. I don't know what she's doing right now. I don't know if she's even
Mm.
releasing music, but her voice is so fire, and I've always wanted to
Yeah.
work with her. Um, I used to want to work with Ariana Grande, but not really anymore. I don't really, I'm not digging what she's doing these days. No shade. It's not really for me.
Yeah, I can see your point.
Yeah, it's just not really my vibe.
Yeah.
And not a female artist or singer, but I really want to work with Vince Staples at some point.
Mm.
Like I really loved his latest album. I was just listening to it yesterday, and he's so sick. And I just would love.
Mm.
I feel like my production would fit him really well. So I
Yeah.
want to tap in with him at some point.
Mm.
But pipe dreams.
So, what can we expect from the Dane in the near future?
So I got Tane and Friends 2 that
Mm.
I'm working on
That's
right
what I
now.
wanted
I've
to
got
hear.
yeah, I actually have sessions out here doing that. So I have one song like finished that needs to be mixed. I have three more that are kind of being worked on, and then I have a bunch of other ideas that need to be recorded. So
Mm.
it's coming along, and I've got some cool people on it. G wants to be on it, so you know, there's but really it's just gonna be, a bunch of fun beats and a
Mm.
bunch of rappers and singers that really love to do this, and they are all talented people.
Yeah.
So it's just a fun project just to enjoy making music, man.
Okay, so it's still in the pretty early stages. Should we
Very
expect
early.
it in like mid 2026,
I could
third
say
quarter
I would probably
maybe?
say early 2026, probably
Ah,
early.
okay, that's
We'll see.
optimistic.
I hope so anyway. I really, sometimes those things take way longer than you think, and other times it's like you look at it and suddenly it's done. I also have a drum and bass project that I'm gonna release in the next like month, I think. It's just a short little EP, but
Yeah.
it's not under the name Tane, it's under the name Racer Blade.
Mm.
But uh and that was just a fun, passion project I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Uh but
Like
yeah,
a,
that's pretty
a,
much
a
it.
little side quest.
That's it. Just a quick little side mission to, get up some experience points and then,
Yeah.
put that out.
Okay, and lastly, what advice would you give to up-and-coming producers, engineers that are trying to break into the industry today?
Mm. First, don't try to break into the industry today because it's like that's not how it
Oh.
works. Like it's more of a networking game. You gotta meet
Mm.
people, you gotta get into the scene, as a
Mhm.
whole. Like you got to be first, like if you're a producer first, like if you don't have any beats, but like you kind of like have the idea, learn how to finish something. That's
Mm,
really for anybody. Like learn how to finish something first, and then from there, then go get into the scene. Go work at a studio. Go, uh, you know, DM local artists and be like, "Hey, I have beats. Can I send you some? I'll record you for free." Stuff like that. Like just get the ball rolling so that you are
mm,
making music and then start finishing music. And then most importantly, start releasing that music. So many people will make songs but not drop them. And that you're not a part of the scene yet until you start doing that. And once you start doing that, it's weird. The universe starts opening doors for you. And
mm,
so start putting music out, start meeting people, start becoming a part of the scene. And then next thing you know, you actually will be in the industry simply by the way that things work, if that makes sense.
mm. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Tane, for agreeing to do this interview.
Thanks for having me,
It
man.
was a blast. It was a very, very interesting and very insightful conversation. And we'll
Cool.
talk again soon.
Hey, thanks a lot, man.